You've been lied to about happiness. They told you it's about success, relationships, money, some perfect combination of external achievements that will finally make you feel complete. But let me ask you this, if that were true, why do so many people who have everything still feel empty? Why do you keep hitting goals, ticking off milestones, and yet something still feels off? Here's the truth. Happiness isn't a one-size-fits-all formula. It's something you have to build for yourself. And if you're still following someone else's version of it, you'll never feel truly satisfied. In this video, we're tearing apart the conventional wisdom on happiness and rebuilding it from scratch, on your terms. I'm going to show you how to craft a happiness formula that actually works for you, not for society, not for your parents, not for Instagram. By the end, you'll have a clear, actionable strategy to design a life that feels genuinely fulfilling, not just one that looks good from the outside. So if you're ready to ditch the generic advice and start taking control of your own happiness, keep watching, because this might just be the perspective shift you've been waiting for. Number 1, selfish generosity. Give less, gain more. You've been lied to. Yep, straight up deceived. We've all been told that the secret to happiness is giving more, being more available, always saying yes. But let's be real. Has that ever worked out the way you hoped? Think about it. The more you give, the more people expect. The more you say yes, the less they appreciate it. And before you know it, you're stretched so thin, you're barely a version of yourself you recognize. Sound familiar? Now, you might be thinking, wait, are you telling me to stop helping people? No, stay with me. I'm saying you should be selfishly generous. Give, but only when it aligns with your values, your energy, and your joy. Because generosity should never come at the cost of your own well-being. When you give out of guilt or obligation, you're not actually giving. You're just slowly draining yourself. And let's be honest, people can smell it. They can tell when your yes is reluctant, when your help is laced with resentment. So why not shift the approach? We've all had that one friend, that coworker, that one family member who seems to have a radar for when we're about to relax. Because that's when they ask for a favor. And because we don't want to be the bad guy, we say yes, again and again. Until suddenly, we're drowning in everyone else's needs, while our own sight gathering dust in the corner. But here's the twist. When you start giving less, you actually gain more. More respect, more energy, more time for the things and people that actually matter. I learned this the hard way. A while back, I had this friend, we'll call him Mark, who was always asking for small favors. Can you help me move this weekend? Can you review this for me real quick? Can I borrow this? And at first it was fine, helping a friend, right? But then it became a pattern. The favors got bigger, my time got smaller, and the appreciation non-existent. So one day, I tried something different. The next time Mark asked, I simply said, "Hey, I can't this time." No excuse, no over-explaining. And guess what? The world didn't end. Mark figured it out on his own, and even better, he started respecting my time more. This isn't about being cold or selfish. It's about giving from a place of abundance, not depletion. When you stop saying yes out of guilt, your yes actually means something. When you help only when it aligns with your values, your help becomes valuable. And when you stop stretching yourself thin for people who wouldn't do the same for you, you suddenly have energy for the things that actually light you up. So here's the deal. Give less. Give intentionally. Give without resentment. Because the real secret to generosity, it's not about how much you give, it's about how much you have left after giving. And trust me, when you start valuing your time and energy, so will everyone else. Number 2. Burn bridges, build peace. Some bridges deserve to burn. I know, that sounds extreme. We've been told all our lives, don't burn bridges, you never know when you'll need them. But let's be real, some bridges only lead to stress, exhaustion, and a version of yourself you don't even like. And if crossing that bridge only ever brings you anxiety, resentment, or constant second-guessing, then maybe, just maybe, it's time to set it on fire. Now you might be thinking, but what if I regret it? Or, isn't that selfish? Trust me, I get it. Cutting people off, walking away from a toxic job, or finally saying no to someone who expects too much. It's uncomfortable. It feels like you're doing something wrong. But let me ask you this. How much of your peace have you already sacrificed trying to keep that bridge intact? How many times have you said yes when you wanted to scream no? How many nights have you spent overanalyzing a conversation that should have never happened in the first place? We've all been there. That one friendship that only exists because you keep reaching out. That one co-worker who constantly drains your energy with negativity. That family member who guilts you into things you don't want to do. And every time you maintain that connection, it chips away at your sanity. But the moment you decide, enough is enough, the moment you stop responding, stop explaining, stop apologizing for protecting your own peace, something incredible happens. The weight lifts, the anxiety fades, and you realize that life moves on, and so do you. I learned this the hard way. I once had a friend who I thought would be in my life forever. But somewhere along the way, the friendship turned into a one-way street. My wins were met with silence, but my struggles, oh, those got attention. I ignored the red flags, convinced myself that history meant loyalty. But the truth is, history isn't a reason to keep someone around. Mutual respect is. So one day, I stopped reaching out. I stopped initiating. And you know what happened? Nothing. No call, no text, no concern. That silence told me everything I needed to know, and instead of feeling hurt, I felt free. This isn't about being bitter, it's about being better. Burning a bridge doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you're done walking a path that only leads to pain. And the best part? When you remove the wrong people, you make space for the right ones. You gain time, clarity, and a deep sense of peace that you didn't even realize was missing. So here's the truth. Not every bridge is worth saving. Some need to burn so you can finally breathe, so you can walk forward without looking back, so you can stop watering dead plants and start planting seeds where they actually grow. And if letting go means protecting your peace, then light the match, and don't you dare look back. Number 3, quit your dreams if they suck. Not all dreams are worth chasing. Yeah, I said it. We've been fed this idea that quitting is for losers, that real winners push through no matter what. But here's the truth. Some dreams suck. Some dreams drain your energy, waste your time, and keep you stuck in a fantasy that was never meant for you in the first place. And yet, we cling to them. Not because they're right, but because we're scared of what it means to let go. Now, you might be thinking, but isn't quitting the easy way out? Nope. Actually, quitting the wrong dream is one of the hardest, smartest, and most liberating things you'll ever do. Because the real tragedy isn't giving up, it's spending years chasing something that was never going to make you happy. You know the type. The guy still trying to make it as a rock star in his 40s, even though he hates performing. The girl forcing herself through med school just because her parents wanted her to be a doctor. The dream that started as excitement, but now feels like a burden. We've all been there, holding on to something long after we should have let it go. Maybe it's a career path, a business idea, a passion project, something you once loved, but now feels like an obligation. But you keep pushing forward because you've already put in so much time. That's the trap, the sunk cost fallacy, the belief that just because you've invested years into something, You have to see it through. But let me ask you this. If you were lost in the wrong direction, would you keep walking just because you started the journey? Or would you turn around and find the right path? I learned this the hard way. Years ago, I was obsessed with this idea of becoming a filmmaker. I studied it, practiced it, convinced myself this was my dream. But over time, I realized something. I didn't actually love making films. I loved the idea of being a filmmaker. The long hours, the endless editing, the constant need for networking. I hated it. But I couldn't admit that to myself. Because if I quit, that meant I had wasted years. Until one day, I finally asked myself, if I was starting from scratch today, would I still choose this? The answer was a painful but undeniable no. So I walked away. And the crazy thing, the moment I let go, I felt relief, like I had finally given myself permission to be honest. This isn't about giving up at the first sign of struggle. It's about recognizing when a dream no longer serves you. Because life isn't about proving you can finish something. It's about making sure what you're building is actually worth it. And when you finally quit the wrong dream, you make space for the right one. So if your dream is making you miserable, if it feels like a prison instead of a passion, if you wouldn't choose it again knowing what you know now, quit. Not because you failed, but because you're brave enough to walk away from something that no longer fits. And trust me, that's not quitting, that's winning. Number 4, be shamelessly selfish for 30 days. You've been lied to. Your whole life, people have told you that being selfish is bad, that you should always put others first, always be available, always say yes. And you've done it. You've been the reliable one, the peacemaker, the person who picks up the slack, who sacrifices sleep, time, and energy just to make sure everyone else is okay. But let me ask you something. Who's making sure you're okay? Now, you might be thinking, but being selfish is wrong. No, being selfish is necessary. And I'm not talking about being an arrogant jerk who steamrolls people. I'm talking about reclaiming your time, your boundaries, your sanity. I'm talking about being shamelessly selfish for 30 days. Just 30 days of prioritizing yourself, guilt-free. We've all been there. That moment when you're running on fumes, but you still say yes to that extra work shift. When you're mentally exhausted, but you still pick up the phone for someone else's drama. When your plans, your goals, your happiness always take a back seat to everyone else's needs. And yet, the more you give, the more people expect. You give an inch, they take a mile. And before you know it, your life isn't even yours anymore. It's just a collection of obligations. So here's the challenge. For the next 30 days, put yourself first. Say no without explaining. Rest without feeling guilty. Do things purely because you want to, not because it's expected. Ignore texts if you don't feel like replying. Eat what you want, sleep when you need to, and prioritize your own peace over pleasing people. And when that little voice creeps in telling you you're being selfish, remind yourself, yes, I am. And that's the point. I tried this once. A full month of shameless selfishness. I stopped overcommitting. I stopped answering every call. And this one was tough. I stopped checking in on people who never checked in on me. And guess what? The world didn't fall apart. But something interesting did happen. The right people stayed, and the wrong people got mad. And that told me everything I needed to know. This isn't about being rude. It's about rebalancing the scale. Because if you're always the giver, someone else is always the taker. And let's be real, most of the people who guilt-trip you for being selfish, they were perfectly fine when you were self-sacrificing, so let them be mad. Let them adjust. Let them realize you're no longer running yourself into the ground just to keep them comfortable. Because this is about more than 30 days. It's about retraining yourself to stop apologizing for taking up space, to stop treating your own needs like an afterthought, to stop breaking yourself into pieces for people who wouldn't even lift a finger for you. So try it. 30 days of guilt-free, shameless selfishness. At the end of it, one of two things will happen. Either you'll realize who truly values you, or you'll finally start valuing yourself. Either way, you win. Number 5. Lie to yourself until it's true. You already lie to yourself every day. I'll start eating healthy tomorrow. One more episode won't hurt. I'm totally fine. We do it all the time, sometimes to avoid reality, sometimes to make ourselves feel better. But what if I told you that lying to yourself could actually be a good thing? That if done right, it could completely transform your life? Now, I know what you're thinking. Isn't self-deception a bad thing? Sure, if you're using it to avoid responsibility or ignore real problems. But what if you used it as a tool? What if you started lying to yourself in a way that worked for you instead of against you? What if, instead of saying, "I'll never be confident," you told yourself, "I am confident," and repeated it until you actually believed it? We've all been there. That moment when self-doubt creeps in, whispering, "You're not good enough. You'll never figure this out. You're just faking it." And the worst part, we believe it. Because the mind doesn't question repetition, it just absorbs it. If you tell yourself something often enough, it starts to feel true. That's how we've accidentally conditioned ourselves into fear, insecurity, and hesitation. But here's the trick. If the brain believes repetition, why not feed it better lies? Why not repeat something empowering until it rewires your reality? I once knew someone who walked into every room like they belonged there. Didn't matter if they had 0 qualifications, no experience. They carried themselves like they were the main character, and people believed it. They got opportunities not because they were the best, but because they acted like they were, and over time, they actually became that person. Confidence wasn't natural for them at first. It was a well-rehearsed lie that turned into truth. And that's the point. You don't need to feel like you deserve something to start acting like you do. You don't need to believe in yourself to start saying, "I've got this." It's uncomfortable at first. It feels fake, but that's the magic of it, because fake turns real if you stick with it. Every successful person you admire, they started as a beginner who probably felt like a fraud. The only difference, they told themselves a different story. This isn't about ignoring reality, it's about shaping it. If you've spent years reinforcing self-doubt, imagine what could happen if you spent just 1 month reinforcing self-confidence instead. Tell yourself you're capable. Tell yourself you're worthy. Tell yourself you're already becoming the person you want to be. Because here's the truth. You are what you repeatedly tell yourself. So why not make the lie a good one? Thank you for watching. I truly hope this video gave you a fresh perspective on happiness and helped you realize that your joy isn't something you have to chase. It's something you can build on your own terms. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to give it a like. It really helps get this message out to more people. And if you want more content like this, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Know someone who could use a little mindset shift? Share this video with them. And I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing that genuinely brings you happiness? Drop a comment below and let's start a conversation. Your experience might just inspire someone else. Remember, happiness isn't about following someone else's formula. It's about creating your own. Keep experimenting, keep growing, and most importantly, keep choosing what truly fulfills you. Until next time, take care and keep building your happiness your way.